right, I hope you guys enjoyed that little montage of myself working with the model, making some great fashion editorial shots. Now I want to take you behind the scenes, show you a little bit about my process, how I plan things like this, and really go into a shoot with a goal, because I think that's very important. We're going to talk about the space, talk about working with the model, picking outfits, and of course, the equipment that we use. So let's get into it and check this stuff out. Okay, so what was my goal in this shoot? Well, it was to test out these Leica R lenses on my M cameras here, as well as a little bit of video footage with the Blazar Remus anamorphic lenses on the video cameras. Now, lenses are a great way to kind of tune the look, what you're going for. And recently I've been trying to not constrain myself to just photography lenses, although these are photo lenses. I've actually been adapting a lot of cinema glass onto my M cameras, including these anamorphic lenses, which I'll do a separate video on later. And I really always throughout my photographic career, I'm trying to pull inspiration from different areas that maybe wouldn't conform to what normally you would see in a space, let's say like in this fashion shoot. Now, what I wanted to do here is kind of take some of that inspiration. Like I've been looking at a lot of Hollywood productions, and man, like a big thing right now, what they're doing is they're taking still lenses and either doing what's called a Cine-mod, which I'll kind of get into a little bit here later, what you see on these lenses, or they're taking like vintage photo lenses and completely rehousing them into cinema lenses, and even going as far as like changing the coatings and doing all kinds of crazy stuff to really tune the look. And I thought, why isn't anybody doing this with still photography? And my first kind of start was these R lenses, which are one of the most popular kind of photo lenses that people are using in cinema now. So I originally got them with the kind of idea to use them on my Red cameras for video stuff. But as I was using them, I'm like, God, these are so beautiful. The rendering is like the perfect balance of kind of a little bit of vintage character and then also just enough sharpness. So I'm like, man, this on a fashion shoot might be pretty special. So yeah, the goal was kind of to try these out, get them in different scenarios that I normally would use kind of my M glass in maybe, or some SL lenses, things like that, and just kind of see how they render and how they perform. In my opinion, a big thing right now, and this is also with a lot of cinematographers, 8K, 12K, even 4K, it can be too sharp. And that's not even getting close to like right here, the M11 monochrome with 60 megapixels. It's even crazier. So for portraiture, a lot of us are wanting to kind of take that edge of sharpness off. So like I said, the R lenses have what I feel like is a perfect blend of enough sharpness, but a little bit of character and softening, and they're just not perfect. So I think it makes it feel a little more organic, which I kind of feel like in these shots, they feel a little more organic. Now, these were mostly black and white, but also in the color department, I think that skin tones render real nicely. It's not always about technical perfection with this stuff, especially when you're trying to tell a story, let's say with a movie, which we're not really doing with this photo shoot, but I don't know, just it has like an interesting like real life feel to it. And it just kind of, yeah, I don't know, just makes it feel more realistic and not so clinical and perfect. Okay, so now I want to touch on this specific set of R lenses that I have here and what kind of makes them a little bit unique and special. Now, they are originally for the Leica R SLR system, so it would be an R mount. But for cinema, and especially adapting to my Red cameras, what makes them a lot more useful and what people do is they call Cine-modding. Now, that involves a few different modifications to the lens. The first most obvious visual thing you see here is this focus gear, which allows you to put like a focus motor on here and kind of adjust focus on the fly with either remotely or like if you're running a gimbal. The other thing is all the lenses will get basically what's a glorified step-up ring in the front, which brings them all to 80 millimeter outer and 77 millimeter internal filters. So when you're using matte boxes, ND filters, polarizers, things like that, they can all be basically one size fits all for the lenses. So you notice like on this 35 here, it's not a huge step up, but something like this 28 here, you'll notice it's quite a big step up on here and quite, it kind of looks a little odd, but it is in use a lot easier to have a unified front filter thread. Now, the biggest modification is actually a mount change. And on the back of the lens here, they've changed them from Leica R to Canon EF mount. So you might be asking, if the camera is RF mount, why aren't the lenses RF and EF, an older Canon standard? Now, the reason is because I want to use an adapter with the Reds. Now, I know we're predominantly talking about stills here, but just very quickly, I'll explain. With an adapter, you have two options. You can get one that has drop-in ND filters, but the one that I use the most is actually what's called a speed booster. and it expands the basically image projection of the lens, because the red cameras are a crop sensor, a little bit bigger than APS-C, but still not full frame. So to get the full projection of the lens, you use the speed booster in between. So it goes from EF to RF and allows that full projection of the lens. So the other thing is adapting to my stills cameras. Now, they do make a Leica R to M and SL adapter, but of course they make an EF to M, EF to SL adapter as well. So going with the EF mount allows me to put it on my red cameras with the speed booster or that ND filter adapter that I talked about, or they can go right on the M or the SL. So this mount really gives me kind of all the flexibility and different options that I would need, and it allows me to use them across all my camera systems. I use the Blazar Remus anamorphic lenses to film this video, using them right now on the reds to film this. Now, I know a lot of you guys probably don't even know what an anamorphic lens is, but it kind of goes back to talking about using different lenses in different applications. And I'll kind of do a video on these, specifically actually shooting them on my stills cameras, because I've really been enjoying doing that. And it comes back to kind of just testing, having fun. And the big thing is, you know, when you're doing this professionally, I never take a new camera, a new lens, a new firmware update on a professional gig right away. You need to test things. And for me, doing these YouTube videos is a good way to kind of have a logbook for myself to go back and review. If I'm like, you know what, maybe this lens will work good for this, if I'm thinking, and, you know, I can go back to these videos, use them kind of as a review to refresh my memory. So that's kind of a big thing for these videos, just have fun and test things kind of for my professional endeavors. And that's what we're doing here. Planning is a big thing, like I said. So one of the biggest tools that I use is Pinterest and photo books to get inspiration. So I'll show you kind of I'll show you the Pinterest mood board that I used for this video, which was very helpful, kind of showed it to the model, allowed her to work on her outfits and kind of find, you know, something that will work for her that way. Another thing that, of course, is very important in the shoot, lighting, the model, the outfit, the location is very important, right? So one tool I want to kind of tell you guys about that's really cool, I'm sure a lot of you know about it, but some of you may not. It's called Peerspace. Now, what Peerspace is, it's basically a website that, I don't know, let's say it's the Airbnb of photo studios and things like that. You know, it's a website that people can come on, they create spaces, and then they put them on there for rent. And you'd be shocked how reasonable some of these spaces are. The studio for this shoot, I think I paid $120 for 4 hours or something like that. Just incredibly inexpensive. But yeah, it's a great place to kind of find spaces and things like that. So I just wanted to touch on that real quick. If you're looking for studio spaces, man, check out Peerspace. There's a lot of great options on there. So we arrived to the studio about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and in California, sunset, I think at this time was around 5 p.m. So at 2, we had a lot of kind of straight light coming through, a lot of harsh light. Now, that may seem like a problem, but you know, you need to go into these with a plan. And I knew, kind of judging on the space and the direction that it was facing, that we'd be dealing with this right when we got there. So what we did is we kind of tried to position the model and do shots that would take advantage of that. So we kind of backlit her a few times, put it to the side, use it as a nice rim light, kind of get those high contrast shots out of the way. And then as we transitioned through the day, the light and the sun started to come down a bit, and it softened, the light warmed. So then we kind of tried to position the model, of course, in a way that would take advantage of that, maybe a little more front lit or side lit, kind of taking advantage of slightly less contrast as it kind of filled the studio up, which was really nice. And then our third look was once the sun went down, I tried to get a few shots with some bokeh in the background, but mainly it was using that projector that I talked about. Now, what was cool, as you could see in some of these black and white images, were the projector is so versatile. You can use it to be a softbox, shoot through a big, shoot into a reflector, through a diffusion fabric, or the way we use it is actually kind of some very harsh direct light. And at first what we did is just using that square pattern, and we could adjust it like that, which was really cool. And then we put those go-between kind of modifiers in there. And then some of them I would do defocus, which I'm going to show you here. And then some of them I would kind of sharpen it up and focus it. So really a versatile, kind of cool lighting tool. And yeah, we just had a great time kind of experimenting with that once the sun went down. Okay, getting back to the lenses and kind of my first impressions with them, because I don't have a lot of time, too much time with them. I've been shooting with them for a couple months now, but not enough time to make a full review of every single focal length. Now, the lenses that I had were the 28, which I actually didn't end up using the 28 because with these shoots, you know, 4 hours seems like a lot, but you tend to try to overdo it, try to do too many things. So I brought everything. I wanted to kind of analyze and decide what I wanted to use, and what I settled on for me, again, like I've talked about a million times, 50 millimeter. I just love that focal length. So I did the 50 millimeter Summilux here, as you can see, adapted here on the monochrome, the M11 monochrome. And the thing is, I want to mention real quick, when it's EF converted, or even apparently with the R, there is a way to kind of use a rangefinder, but typically with these adapted lenses, you're going to be using the EVF or live view. So I had my EVF on here, which I love the tilting function on it. You have here, which is really nice. And of course, once the sun went down and I could see, I was using the screen a bit to kind of do some lower angles, things like that, shooting in different ways. So that was a great setup here. Now I have the 19mm Elmer R, which is just an incredible lens, adapted to my SL here. But yeah, so I used the 19 and the 50 mostly for the natural light shots. And then when we went to the photos of using the projector, I used mostly the 35 Summilux R that I have here. Just trying to kind of do a little range of testing. Some of the wide low shots I love with the 19, turned out really amazing. It's a 19 2.8 Elmer version 2. And then, like I said, the 50 Summilux just has like a beautiful kind of soft feel to it. It's not perfect. The 19 is probably the most like sharp and perfect of any of them, and the 50 is probably has the most character. 35 is something in the middle. Kind of the funny thing I want to talk about on these R lenses, they were not very desirable 10, 15 years ago when Leica, they came out with the M was kind of more popular. The R system had kind of gone out of favor. But what happened, like I said, is cinematographers discovered how beautiful the optics were inside of these. So optically, these lenses are just incredible, kind of give all those characteristics that I was talking about before. And the price started to creep up. And then when we learned that kind of all our mirrorless cameras, not even just Leica, Sony's, Nikon, Canons, all this stuff could adapt different lenses, pretty much any of these older SLR lenses, the price went up even more. And unfortunately, they're to kind of a point now where it's a bit crazy. And yeah, they've gone from nobody wanting them to ultra desirable and pretty expensive now. So I didn't want to make this video too long, kind of the BTS stuff. I just wanted to talk a little bit about my process. Like I said, this was more of a test shoot for myself to kind of see how these lenses would perform, as well as the Blazar, the anamorphic lenses on the video cameras. And man, yeah, just super happy with it. Good initial tests. I'm going to be doing a lot more. Eventually, I'll probably do a full review on each focal length of these R lenses. If you guys like to see that, let me know. Or maybe if you have some other kind of photo lenses that are maybe underappreciated, kind of not like these yet, that you feel are a good value, I'd love to hear about them. Always looking to try kind of new stuff. But yeah, just wanted to keep it short, simple, explain a little bit about the process, show some BTS video, and I hope you guys enjoyed these images, and I'll see you next time.